My daughter-in-law declared my mom will go. What she discovered at the airport was incredible. Clara Johnson stood at the airport terminal, her emotions swirling like a tempest. She couldn't believe what had just unfolded amidst the chaotic energy of travelers. I'm going instead, Lisa had asserted, her voice high and defiant. Clara's heart sank then raced. How could Lisa, her new daughter-in-law, so boldly snatch away the chance she had longed for? The prestigious medical conference in New York crackled with promise. Recognition, respect, perhaps even a glimpse of the appreciation she deserved after years of toil in the nursing field. Glaring at Lisa, Clara felt betrayed and ignited, a spiral of doubts churning in her mind. With each passing moment, Clara's thoughts twisted. It wasn't about the conference for her. It was about the principle. Something deep inside screamed that Lisa had crossed a line, but who was she to box her ambitions? Clara had sacrificed her own dreams for motherhood, raising her son alone during sleepless nights that blurred into long, exhausting shifts at the hospital. Her grit had shaped every bond and every bitter moment. And now here was Lisa, ready to sweep that away in a single declaration. And yet, seeing how determined Lisa was stirred something else deep within fear. Was she now the one who should step aside for new generations to claim the spotlight? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Clara watched as Lisa rifled through her suitcase with teasing curiosity. She stumbled across the old journal, the one with pages marred by time and filled with Clara's deeply personal reflections. No, not that. Clara felt an instinctual pull to snatch the journal away, but instead she froze. Lisa's eyes widened, entranced by the words that unveiled the struggles of a woman who had faced prejudice, uncertainty, and heartbreak all alone. Clara felt herself unraveling, desperate to hold on to her composed facade. Would Lisa truly understand? Or would this only fuel more ambition in pursuing her career? As Lisa immersed herself in the journal, fragments of Clara's heart laid bare, each entry a revelation of hopes and failures, began to build a bittersweet tension between them. The reverberation of a shared legacy clashed with their individual desires. Glancing around at the bustling airport, Clara pondered the relentless weight of expectations that loomed over her. Would her years of service and sacrifice simply vanish under the ambition of the next generation? The conference buzz grew louder in her mind, clouding her self-doubt with urgency. Recognition hung in the air, but the anticipation knotted in her stomach. Would the audience feel Clara's sacrifice? Or would Lisa's potential steal everything she had fought to build? Clara felt a moisture gathering in her eyes as she envisioned Lisa stepping into a spotlight that could have easily been hers. And yet, as Lisa shifted uncomfortably, the fight within her simmered, leaving Clara to wonder just how badly either of them truly wanted this moment. As she prepared to face whatever choice Lisa made, Clara couldn't shake the suffocating dread that clung to her, fearing that with every keystroke of the journal, perhaps family bonds would stretch beyond recognition, leaving her legacy lost in the shadows of ambition. As Clara watched Lisa take a deep breath, poised to say something, tension crackled in the air. Was she about to shatter everything they'd built together? Clara's heart thudded in her chest, an anchor weighing her down as Lisa exhaled, gathering courage. The uncertainty danced in the air like a flickering light, and Clara felt a jagged edge of panic slicing through her thoughts. I know how much this conference means to you, Lisa finally declared, her voice trembling slightly. The sincerity was unmistakable, but Clara couldn't help but feel the sting of defensive resentment. Then why would you claim it for yourself? Clara shot back, the words slipping out before she could temper their bite. Anguish flickered in Lisa's expression, momentarily replaced by misunderstanding. Clara's frustration splintered into more self-doubt. Was she being a protective mother-in-law or a jealous woman defending her dwindling dreams? Lisa took a step back, her posture rigid. I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I just want a chance to prove myself. You have to understand that. Torn between empathy and indignation, Clara wrestled with her instincts. She had fought tooth and nail to carve out a place in a field dominated by men, to earn a respect that now felt threatened by this audacious young woman. As the minutes ticked by and travelers bustled past them, Clara's mind raced. What did proving oneself even mean? She had lived a life striving for acknowledgement, yet here she was, clinging to both the relics of her past and the looming shadows of her potential future. Would she turn her back on the chance to support Lisa, or would she risk everything to hold on to a dream that seemed increasingly out of reach? Maybe it's not just about you proving yourself, Clara countered, her voice low yet firm. Maybe it's also about understanding what I've given up for all of you. My dreams were never easy to pursue either. Bravery surged in Clara's words, but underlying them was a plea for recognition of her own sacrifices. The atmosphere shifted, charged with skeletons in their respective closets. Lisa hesitated, her grip tightening around the journal. The pages had chronicled Clara's journey, the late nights of study, the tears shed over lost patience, and the joy of healing in the critical moments. Was this unearthed history shifting their perspectives? Your journey is inspiring, Clara, Lisa admitted quietly, her gaze unwavering. But it's time for me to create my own. The weight of those words gloriously crashed into Clara's heart, stirring exasperation but also igniting a flicker of something new. Hope. Could they foster a space for two legacies? Could they embrace duality instead of rivalry? Clara suddenly realized her fight wasn't just with Lisa. It was an internal battle against the resentment she harbored and the walls she had built around her own vulnerability. In her determination to stand tall, she had also been inadvertently shrouding herself in isolation. Maybe, she began carefully, there is a way for both of us to shine. Maybe you can prepare for this conference and I can help. The idea was revolutionary yet terrifying. It tested Clara's willingness to mentor and empower rather than compete. A tentative smile broke over Lisa's stoic face, ushering in relief. You would really help me? I think it's time we both learned, Clara replied, her voice steadier now, laced with a newfound resolve. She was no longer just Clara Johnson. She was a mentor, a connector, and a woman unwilling to back down from a challenge. As they gravitated toward a shared alliance, a vision of dual achievements began to crystallize in Clara's mind. Exchanges of wisdom, the blending of past experiences with new innovations. They had the potential to rewrite conventions surrounding their lives as women in medicine. But just as they resolved to navigate this path together, a name etched in Clara's journal flashed unbidden in her mind. Dr. Goodman, the conference head who had once dismissed her. Would he be willing to acknowledge a collaboration? Was he truly ready for the transformative power of shared stories? Clara's heart raced, for another challenge loomed ahead, a new confrontation that would test their commitment to this alliance. The moment of truth was advancing, and with it, doubt crested defiantly at the fringes of Clara's mind. Would this conference be the turning point for both of them, or would past grievances overshadow the possibility of synergy? Clara felt a surge of anxiety as she returned home, the weight of her conversation with Lisa pressing heavily on her chest. She had agreed to help, but the prospect of mentorship felt both exhilarating and oppressive, a tightrope walk over a chasm of expectation. She had made sacrifices, often at the expense of her own ambition, and now that very ambition was rekindled in her spirit through Lisa's determination. In her home office, a sanctuary of memories and aspirations, Clara faced an array of journals, each filled with her past dreams, hopes, and battles. Their pages whispered of growth and heartache and of battles fought in silence. The weight of unresolved ambitions materialized before her like a fog, blurring her focus. Would this conference serve as a platform for both her past and Lisa's future? Or would it expose the fractures in her self-worth? Sifting through her journals, Clara's fingers brushed against an old one, a leather-bound memoir of her early career. As she flipped through the pages, the emotions of years past flooded back. The raw desperation etched in her neat pen strokes stood in stark contrast to the clarity she felt now. What she wouldn't give to share that journey with Lisa, to craft a narrative that fused their experiences. But doubt began to infiltrate her resolve. How would she approach Dr. Goodman? Would he even entertain the idea of their collaboration? Memories of dismissive glances and cold shoulders at earlier conferences stung her spirit anew. Clara had worked diligently to dismantle the barriers others had erected, yet the thought of encountering that same scrutiny filled her with dread. Was she ready for this fight? The weight of the past clashed with her present ambitions, forcing her to confront a deeper truth. Perhaps embracing Lisa's ambition wasn't just about partnership. It was about her own reclamation of power. The night wore on, and as she strategized, a flicker of inspiration ignited her imagination. She could propose a joint presentation, an evolving narrative showcasing two perspectives on medicine's evolving landscape. Could they challenge the norm? Clara's fingers danced across her keyboard, composing an email to Dr. Goodman that defined their collaborative vision: two voices in harmony, a bridge between experience and innovation. With each word, she fought against self-doubt. It was a plea for respect, not just for herself, but as a foundation where both she and Lisa could thrive. However, fear lingered. If Dr. Goodman rejected their proposal, what would that mean for Lisa? More importantly, what would it mean for Clara, who had finally found a semblance of courage to step back into the spotlight? Clara inhaled deeply, contemplating her next step. This was no longer just about triumphing over her own insecurities. It was about ensuring Lisa wouldn't be undermined by an uphill battle that Clara had faced herself. They were venturing into unfamiliar territory as a team, and she had to ensure that Lisa felt empowered every step of the way. As dawn crept through the window, she hit send on the email and watched as the screen flashed its confirmation. Clara's heart raced, exhilarated and terrified. She had taken the first step towards reconciliation, not just with Lisa, but with herself. But would the voice of the past echo in Dr. Goodman's response? Would her decision to partner with Lisa be met with acceptance or derision? With new questions swirling in her mind like storm clouds, Clara recognized that momentum was building. The journey ahead was laden with potential triumphs, but also formidable challenges. The confrontation with Dr. Goodman awaited her, holding the keys to both their futures. As uncertainty buzzed through her, Clara felt the intensity sharpen. The story was far from over. The real confrontation was yet to come, and her next move could shape both their legacies in ways she had yet to comprehend. Clara spent the following days in a whirlwind of preparation, her mind torn between anticipation and dread. Each morning began with a ritual: a cup of coffee brewed stronger than normal, a few minutes of reflection on her goals, and an unwavering commitment to affirm Lisa's abilities. Daily, she replayed the moment of sending that email, her pulse quickening at the thought of Dr. Goodman's potential reply. Yet a subtle shift occurred within her. The urgency of her ambitions, long dormant, glimmered with renewed brightness. Clara began sketching ideas for the presentation, crafting a narrative that would weave together their experiences in a manner that was dynamic and transformative. Each bullet point became not just an outline, but a beacon guiding her through the fog of self-doubt. Lisa, too, proved both a source of motivation and inspiration. They met frequently, with Clara ensuring that Lisa felt valued not merely as an apprentice, but as an equal partner in this endeavor. During their discussions, Clara marveled at Lisa's unyielding passion, the very essence that had rekindled the flame of ambition within her own soul. Their conversations sparked creative energy, igniting the merger of their two voices in a way that felt profound and necessary. Still, the mental calculus Clara conducted daily was exhausting. Would Dr. Goodman truly value a collaborative narrative, or consider it a distraction? Each time Clara pictured the imposing figure of her former mentor, her heart would race, flooding her with a surge of apprehension. The familiar tightness in her chest turned her thoughts into a double-edged sword. On one hand, she had the potential to reclaim her prominence. On the other, it was a gamble that risked everything. The day of the meeting loomed closer, her anxiety going hand in hand with the excitement of presenting their joint proposal. One afternoon, deep in concentration, Clara stumbled upon a piece of research she had worked on years earlier, a parallel study that pointed to the very essence of their proposed presentation. As she read her own words, a wave of nostalgia washed over her, stirring the dormant confidence buried beneath the weight of her past failures. It dawned on her then. This wasn't merely an opportunity for redemption. It was a chance to educate, to influence the narrative of a field she loved so deeply. By embracing her past while joining forces with Lisa, she could redefine how they both appeared in the professional landscape. Clara's fingers flew across her keyboard, collating notes from her past with Lisa's fresh insights into a presentation that rang with authenticity. Yet, even as the excitement surged, Clara wrestled with her fears. Would the personal vulnerabilities she planned to disclose about her journey resonate with others or leave her exposed to criticism? Every experience she conveyed was a potential weapon that could either fortify their case or dismantle her spirit. As the week culminated into the day before the presentation, Clara made a choice: she would embrace vulnerability. She recognized that sharing her authentic self might serve as a powerful pivot, allowing others to resonate with both her journey and Lisa's. That evening, as she practiced in front of the mirror, the reflection of a woman in transition stared back at her. Clara wasn't just stepping into the spotlight to validate her worth. She was igniting a dialogue about what it meant to reclaim one's narrative in a space that often dictated otherwise. The next morning, Clara opened her email, searching for a final confirmation from Dr. Goodman. A moment stretched just beyond anticipation as she found it a yes. Their proposal could proceed to the next discussion stage. Her heart raced, ignited with a mix of fear and determination. Standing before the mirror, a new question emerged within her. Could she face Dr. Goodman, not just to prove her credentials but to challenge perceptions about mentorship and collaboration? As she prepared to venture into this highly anticipated meeting, Clara felt her mouth dry. The crux of her journey hinged not only on their presentation but on a reckoning with not only Dr. Goodman, but with her past. Would she emerge victorious, or would her ghostly doubts emerge to haunt her once more? The moment of truth was almost upon her. The next chapter awaited her resolve. Clara stood at the entrance of Dr. Goodman's office, her fingers trembling slightly as they grazed the doorframe. The polished brass nameplate shone with an authority that echoed in her chest, a constant reminder of both her aspirations and insecurities. In that moment her breath hitched. Was she truly ready to confront the very figure who had, at once, instilled both reverence and fear in her? She pushed the door open, the hinges creaking like her own internal misgivings. Inside, Dr. Goodman sat behind a vast mahogany desk, reviewing documents with a focused intensity that somehow felt welcoming and intimidating. As Clara entered, she could feel the weight of her previous tenure in this space, the late nights spent immersed in research suddenly juxtaposed with the specter of reticence that clung to her. "Clara, good to see you. You've brought along your associate, I assume?" His tone was brisk and businesslike, yet underneath it lay a thread of familiarity that managed to ignite memories of mentorship and guidance. Clara smiled, motioning for Lisa to step forward. "Thank you for meeting with us, Dr. Goodman," Clara began, her voice quaking ever so slightly. "We've prepared a presentation that we believe outlines our innovative findings in the field, as well as our collaborative approach." The words poured out, and she focused on her articulation, hoping it conveyed both confidence and sincerity. Dr. Goodman gestured for them to sit, his expression inscrutable. As they settled into the leather armchairs, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that her past failures were looming, lurking in the shadows, eager to discredit her efforts. A glimpse of Lisa's encouraging smile steadied her nerves. "Collaboration is crucial," Dr. Goodman said after a pause, nodding thoughtfully. "But in our field, originality is paramount. I'm curious why now, after all this time, have the two of you decided to undertake this research together?" It was a question Clara had rehearsed answering, yet it struck deep, forcing her to confront her true motivations without the comforting veil of rehearsed phrases. "I believe our combined perspectives, historical data with contemporary insights, can yield groundbreaking outcomes," she replied, her voice gaining steadiness. "But more importantly, I think we can redefine what mentorship looks like in our discipline. I spent so long under the weight of traditional frameworks that overlooked the power of collaboration." The words held a weight she hadn't anticipated. Clara felt the dam of her past begin to crack, the realization dawning that sharing her journey was not merely defensive, it was liberating. Taking a breath, she continued, "I have always feared that stepping away from the traditional route would discredit my work. But now, I see that it's precisely that fear that has prevented growth, not only for myself but for those around me." Dr. Goodman leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing with a mixture of scrutiny and intrigue. "Interesting. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness in academia. Yet you're willing to turn it into a catalyst for change?" "Yes," Clara exclaimed, emboldened. "Embracing vulnerability allows us to connect with one another's stories and our failures. Lisa's passion reminds me of why I entered this field. And together, we can inspire others to step into their own power." The weight of each word forced Clara to make eye contact with Lisa, whose affirming nod sent a surge of electricity down Clara's spine. As she presented their slides, Clara sensed the tension in the air shift. Dr. Goodman's eyes flashed with interest. Perhaps it was the depth of their narrative that challenged preconceived notions. Still, she knew one misstep could unravel everything. And how do you plan to implement these ideas practically, Clara? He probed, his tone laced with skepticism. The question was both a challenge and an invitation. Clara hesitated for a moment. She couldn't afford to falter. By fostering authentic mentorship, we will create pathways for emerging voices in our field. This isn't just about the research we present. It's about building a community that values collaboration over competition. She could feel her heart pounding, a mix of fervor and trepidation coursing through her. This was her chance to confront not only Dr. Goodman, but also the ghost of her own limited perceptions on mentorship. Dr. Goodman sat silently for a moment, gauging the implications of her statement, as if weighing its potential impact. Clara's heart raced. Had she struck a chord? The silence stretched, a taut string about to snap. The intensity in the room crescendoed, and Clara found her gaze fixated on the mentor whose opinion and approval had held so much sway over her career. With her newfound resilience, Clara realized that this meeting was not merely about presenting a proposal, but about presenting a self she had fought hard to reclaim. Let us explore that idea further, Dr. Goodman finally asserted, a glimmer of something curiosity, perhaps flashing across his features. With a deep breath, Clara felt the pull of possibility drawing nearer. But as the conversation unfolded, lingering doubts began to resurface again. Had she truly convinced him, or was this merely an academic exercise? There remained one critical question hanging in the air. Could she convert this blossoming momentum into tangible, real-world change? The moment teetered on the brink. What lay on the horizon was uncertain, but Clara was ready to battle with every ounce of determination within her. As the meeting progressed, she faced the temptations of self-doubt once more, but her resolve remained resolute. What would the outcome of this discourse yield? Clara's journey took a turn toward the unpredictable, and her next step could redefine everything she thought she knew about herself, her work, and the path ahead of her. Clara's heart raced with adrenaline as Dr. Goodman's words hung in the air. The flicker of intrigue in his gaze ignited a flicker of hope deep within her. She could sense that possibilities were unfolding, yet that glimmer was shadowed by fear, the age-old, nagging fear of inadequacy. Was it enough to simply present ideas? Or would she need to prove that she could lead this journey? The conversation shifted, details about implementation and outreach discussed with vigor. Clara could feel her confidence ebb and flow like the tide. She found herself oscillating between enthusiasm for the potential change and the weight of lingering self-doubt. Lisa's supportive presence was a constant. Her mutual passion served as a buoy in the stormy seas of Clara's mind. When the meeting concluded, Clara walked out with Lisa, her pulse still racing. There was excitement mixed with the nagging uncertainty that echoed her past struggles. Clara couldn't dismiss the thought. What if the groundbreaking paths she envisioned were merely mirages? Would they be able to cultivate this vision into something real? As they strode along the corridor, Lisa turned to her. "You did amazing in there, Clara. You really shared your heart." "Thanks," but Clara halted, grappling with her internal critique. What comes next? Dr. Goodman's interest is just the first hurdle. We need a solid strategy to make all this happen. That familiar unease gripped her again. This wasn't just about ideas anymore. It was about executing a plan that involved both risk and vulnerability. A strategy, Clara echoed, her brow knitting with uncertainty. How would she transform the hopeful seeds of their presentation into a thriving reality? Lisa's expression shifted from pride to thoughtfulness. What about tapping into existing networks? Doesn't he have connections that could help with outreach? Yes, but it feels like a gamble, Clara replied. I can't shake the feeling that I'm venturing too far outside my comfort zone. What if I fail? Lisa placed a hand on Clara's shoulder, grounding her in the moment. But what if you soar? You've got to take the leap to find out what you're truly capable of. Clara took a deep breath. Understanding the stakes wasn't alarming. It was invigorating. A surge of determination coursed through her, the essence of her newfound clarity challenging her fears. Navigating unknown waters was daunting, but Clara recognized that avoiding risks had stifled her growth in the past. That night, she sat before her laptop, fingers poised over the keyboard. The strategies began to flow. Defining clear goals, crafting outreach initiatives, and connecting with potential allies. The fear of inadequacy began to shift into something else, an awareness of her growth. The very act of meticulously outlining their approach was empowering. Each section she typed reflected her tenacity, her evolution from passive observer to active architect of her future. However, doubt still whispered at the edges of her mind. What if she couldn't maintain this momentum? The voices of her critics, both external and internal, threatened to undermine her progress. But instead of succumbing, Clara steeled herself. Each keystroke became an affirmation, fortifying her resolve. The next morning, she scheduled a follow-up meeting with Dr. Goodman. The gravity of her decision weighed heavily, yet she felt more equipped than ever to articulate her vision. "Clara, are you ready?" Lisa asked as she prepared to leave. Making eye contact with her friend, Clara nodded, feeling the seismic shift within. "Yes, I am going to show him the plan. Not just the idea, I'm going to present a path forward," she said, her voice unwavering. As she turned to leave, a new wave of anticipation surged through her. What had once felt like an insurmountable hill now appeared as a challenging yet achievable summit to conquer. But when she stepped into Dr. Goodman's office for their next meeting, she couldn't shake the intense feeling that everything was about to change. What awaited her in that room could either validate her bold step or challenge her newfound confidence in profound ways. Would she emerge even more empowered, or would fear creep back in just when she needed it the least? The moment loomed, heavy with potential and uncertainty. Clara took a deep breath and crossed the threshold into Dr. Goodman's office, her heart pounding like a drum against her ribcage. The room felt bigger than it had during their last meeting, each piece of furniture seemingly closing in on her as if gauging her resolve. It wasn't just about articulating her ideas anymore. It was a test of her newly formed sense of purpose. "Good morning, Clara." Dr. Goodman greeted her with a nod, the flicker of interest still apparent in his eyes. She took her seat across from him, her laptop resting on the table like a well-worn book containing secrets waiting to be unveiled. "Thank you for meeting with me again," Clara replied, striving to sound more confident than she felt. She opened her laptop, and her gaze fell on the notes she had meticulously crafted the night before. Each bullet point represented more than a plan. They were stepping stones towards her transformation. "So what's next?" he asked, leaning slightly forward, a subtle invitation for her to share. Clara hesitated for just a moment, feeling the familiar swell of uncertainty. What if the plan she had so carefully designed was too ambitious? She recalled Lisa's words, the encouragement fueling her resolve. "I've outlined a strategic plan for implementing our initiative. It involves clearly defined goals and potential partnerships with local networks." Her voice steadied, emboldened by the clarity of her vision. Dr. Goodman nodded, his expression focused. "Partnerships can amplify your impact if approached strategically. Who do you envision as your key allies?" Clara's mind raced, the possibilities blooming in her thoughts. "I believe we could start with the community organizations that have a history of successful outreach. Their established trust could pave the way for our initiative." The words flowed more freely now, each sentence unfurling like the petals of a flower in spring. As she spoke, Clara noticed Dr. Goodman's gaze sharpen. "That's a solid foundation. But tell me, what challenges do you foresee in executing this plan?" The question struck a chord. Clara felt the weight of the reality settle over her. "The major challenge will be overcoming skepticism both from potential partners and within myself." The truth blazed like a beacon. She was not just advocating for an initiative. She was engaging in a personal confrontation with her self-doubt, a battle that could either lead to growth or further retreat. "Self-doubt can be your fiercest opponent," he agreed, "but it can also drive you to refine your approach. How do you plan to overcome that?" "It's about demonstrating tangible results," she replied, the determination previously reserved for internal dialogues now manifesting in her tone. "By measuring our outreach efforts' impact and sharing those successes, I can create credibility not only for the project but for myself within this new role." "Excellent point, Clara. If you can provide proof of concept, it shifts the narrative." His praise sent a ripple of warmth through her, momentarily banishing the shadows of doubt. Their conversation continued, building a framework rich with ideas, insights, and strategic maneuvers. as Clara cocooned herself in the focus of execution. Yet, in the depths of her mind, another thought emerged: could she truly sustain this newfound momentum? The weight of expectation settled heavily on her shoulders, and Clara felt a flicker of panic. Every genius idea she had could backfire if she stumbled in handling the complexities of collaboration, accountability, and stakeholder engagement. What if she was leading herself into an intricate labyrinth? Each turn could either lead to success or a dead end. As she wrapped up the meeting, Clara realized something profound. She was standing at the intersection of fear and potential, where daring to embrace vulnerability could spark unimaginable growth. Thank you, Dr. Goodman. I appreciate your insights. I'll refine the strategy further and come back with more concrete plans, she stated, feeling invigorated by the push towards active leadership. But as she left his office, the questions swirled in her mind like autumn leaves in a whirlwind. Would she be able to translate her vision into reality? And could she face the silence of potential failure without crumbling? The day loomed ahead with the promise of challenges, and Clara knew it was time to put her newfound courage to the test. The real question was, would she rise or would she fall? The leap began, teetering on the brink of a critical moment looming just ahead. Clara stepped out of Dr. Goodman's office, the steady rhythm of her heart quickening with each step. A mixture of anticipation and anxiety coursed through her veins. This was a critical turning point, and she sensed the weight of expectation bearing down on her. The air felt charged with possibility, yet it also carried the unsettling scent of uncertainty. Her intention was clear: to forge relationships and foster partnerships, but the shadows of self-doubt crept back into her mind. What if she failed to convince those organizations to come on board? The prospect hung heavily in the pit of her stomach. Could she really elevate her ideas from mere concepts to a tangible reality? As she headed home, Clara couldn't help but analyze the conversations she had just wrapped up. Each point Dr. Goodman had raised echoed in her mind, igniting a fire of determination. She needed an edge, something that would allow her ideas to stick, to resonate. Overcoming skepticism would require her to be more than just a voice. She needed to be an embodiment of her vision. Once home, Clara spread her notes across the dining table, the familiar embrace of her personal space grounding her. She felt as if she was on the brink of a revelation. Each bullet point transformed into a challenge she had to face head-on. Create a credible presence, she whispered to herself, mantra-like. Know your audience. She imagined the community organization's representatives, faces lined with skepticism, arms crossed defensively. To bridge the gap, Clara realized she had to craft an engaging narrative, one that would not only explain her initiative, but weave in personal anecdotes demonstrating her commitment and resolve. What story could she tell that would touch their hearts and open their minds? Reflecting upon her own experiences, she recalled the moment she decided to step beyond the familiar conference rooms of her previous job, an instinctual push to embrace the uncertain, to leap into the world she was now part of. That decision had sparked a domino effect of growth and transformation. With renewed focus, Clara began to outline her narrative. She used the laptop to draft a brief bio, highlighting her career path and personal motivations. Here, she could illustrate her struggles and victories, transforming her challenges into stepping stones that would resonate with potential allies. As she wrote, her thoughts flowed freely, and a confidence she did not know she possessed began to surface. Each word on the page anchored her in the reality of her vision. She wasn't merely presenting numbers or data. She was sharing her soul in a way that demanded connection. After several hours of writing and revising, Clara sat back, surveying her work with a sense of accomplishment. She felt a growing belief solidifying within her, a promise that if she could harness the power of her story and make it relatable, she would inspire others to join her cause. But just as she prepared to save her document, a sense of urgency nagged at her. What if this approach wasn't enough? Naming her emotions was crucial, but she hesitated. Was the personal narrative an open door? Or would it leave her vulnerable to judgment? The fear of rejection loomed once again. As much as she sought collaboration, personal transparency felt like another layer of risk. Clara pressed her fingertips against the touchpad, drawing a deep breath. Contemplating her next steps, she realized the crossroads she stood at. Would she dare to fully embrace her vulnerability in the pursuit of authenticity? To wield her story as a weapon rather than a shield could either lead to profound connections or expose her to scorn. With her internal conflict buzzing like static electricity, Clara understood that her journey was as much about personal evolution as it was about the initiative itself. The time had come to face that risk head-on. She felt the tide of transformation swelling inside her. Would she share her story and invite partnership, or retreat into the safety of the familiar? The uncertainty of that choice gripped her tightly, a bittersweet reminder of the stakes she faced. The moment of truth loomed heavy in the air, and Clara knew she had to prepare for what was next. As she closed her laptop, she whispered to herself, "It's time to take the leap." Clara awoke the next morning, the sunlight filtering through her curtains, bathing the room in a warm glow. Yet, instead of feeling invigorated, she found herself entangled in her own thoughts. The doubts that had lingered in her mind the previous night pressed down like a weight. How could she channel the urgency of her vision into a narrative compelling enough to draw in her audience? The fear of inadequacy sliced through her resolve. She took a moment to breathe deeply. Seated by the window, she allowed her gaze to drift outside, watching the world bustle by, each passerby seemingly unaware of her internal conflict. Perhaps vulnerability could be a powerful tool. But was she prepared to showcase the raw edges of her journey? Clara got up and made her way to the kitchen, making a cup of coffee, hoping its warmth would offer some comfort. As she stirred the steaming brew, she reflected on the voices of the past. Those critics who had challenged her choices and questioned her passion. They were reminders of her journey, not shackles binding her to fear. Rather than shrinking back, she felt a flicker of defiance. What if those critiques became a part of her story, showcasing her resilience? With renewed vigor, Clara turned back to her laptop, the screen flickering to life in front of her. She reread her bio, scrutinizing every detail. Could it possibly reflect the tenacity she had developed over the years? She wasn't merely a collection of bullet points or accomplishments. She had grappled with her doubts and transformed her vulnerabilities into strengths. In that moment, an idea took root. Clara shifted her narrative to begin with a pivotal moment in her life, a tale that revealed the risks she had taken, underlining her motivations. She recalled her first job out of college, filled with uncertainty and insecurity, but also a deep drive to make a difference. Her hands flew across the keyboard as she added details, weaving in emotions anxious, exhilarated, and ultimately empowered. Her story morphed from a simple resume into a dynamic tapestry, rich with her emotions and experiences. The anecdotes flowed, each memory illuminating the path she had walked. She wrote about the early days when she stumbled, how every failure became a lesson stirring her forward. Yet even as her writing became more authentic, a shadow flitted through her mind's self-criticism. Who would care about my struggles? It's unprofessional. But that notion began to lose its strength as she considered the audience's perspective. People connected through stories. Her raw experiences could resonate deeply if framed correctly. Clara paused, leaning back in the chair. Would sharing her most vulnerable moments resonate? Would it translate into understanding and collaboration? She allowed herself a moment of reflection, accepting that authenticity sometimes invited scrutiny. That was the risk she had to navigate, but it could also yield rich rewards. As she returned to her writing, contemplating how to conclude her narrative with strength, an idea ignited. She would not only share her story but also invite her audience to share theirs. By fostering an environment of mutual vulnerability, she could shift the dynamic, drawing potential partners into a shared journey, rather than a one-sided pitch. With each sentence, Clara felt a rush of adrenaline. She was on the verge of creating something truly impactful, a collaboration built on trust rather than mere statistics. Yet, beneath the excitement lingered the gnawing thought: would she be able to articulate her vision adequately in meetings? Could her newfound confidence hold under pressure? She took a moment to savor her progress before contemplating her next steps. As she prepared to save her work, a fresh wave of uncertainty washed over her. Would her leap into authenticity resonate with those she hoped to inspire? Or would it instead lead to another barrier? Deciding that clarity came from action, Clara rose from the table, exhilarated by the challenge ahead. She felt her heart quickening as she prepared to craft the invitation to her audience. The door to the unknown beckoned enticingly, filled with both opportunity and risk. Would she find the courage to truly connect, Or would vulnerability prove to be her greatest flaw? Each question left her teetering on the edge of transformation. With a newfound conviction, Clara resolved to embrace the struggle that came with authenticity. Her story was just beginning to unfold. Clara Johnson emerged from the tumultuous journey of self-discovery with a newfound clarity that illuminated the path ahead. The weight of expectation and self-doubt had transformed into a powerful sense of purpose, an understanding that her stories held the potential to inspire not only herself but those around her. The weeks that followed were nothing short of revolutionary. She and Lisa executed their plan with a synergy that had previously felt elusive. Clara meticulously reached out to various community organizations, becoming not just a voice for change, but a compelling storyteller weaving threads of connection and hope. Each presentation she crafted reinforced her newfound understanding. Vulnerability was not a weakness but a bridge to deeper relationships. During one particular meeting with a prominent healthcare organization, Clara shared her personal narrative, detailing the struggles and triumphs that had shaped her career. The reception was overwhelming. As she narrated her journey, not only did she see understanding reflected in the eyes of her audience, but she also witnessed them visibly leaning in, their skepticism melting away with each heartfelt word. The reaction she received was validating. Organizations began to express eagerness to partner, seeing Clara not just as a resource, but as a beacon of change. She had become a recognized figure in her community, not merely for her professional accolades, but for her ability to connect through shared experiences and her willingness to confront the complexities of life. At a pivotal conference showcasing their collaborative project, Clara stood beside Lisa, her nerves fizzing with anticipation. As they presented their work and broad strategy for community outreach, Clara felt a sensation wash over her, a solid confidence fortified by the years of struggle and sacrifice. She was no longer the apprehensive woman overshadowed by self-doubt. She was a competent leader commanding the stage. Responses after their presentation was overwhelmingly positive. One of the leaders from the audience approached Clara afterwards, extending an invitation to share their narrative at a larger symposium, a chance to enlighten others about the powerful connection between vulnerability and transformation. Clara stood there, overwhelmed with joy, her heart swelling at the validation of her journey. "Can you believe it?" Lisa exclaimed, her excitement palpable. "We did it together." They embraced, a symbol of their partnership that had blossomed from rivalry into a profound alliance. Clara realized how she had come full circle, from a woman who felt the tension between ambition and familial duty, to one who understood the value of mentorship and empowerment. It wasn't just about her own journey but rather the paths they were now paving for more women in medicine. Clara's professional growth culminated when she accepted the opportunity to keynote at the symposium that would place her story center stage. She approached the moment with solid confidence, every piece of her narrative structured to encourage others to value their own stories. As she stood confident before the audience, Clara recognized her transformation. She was a powerful advocate for collaboration and vulnerability. She smiled at the realization that every ounce of fear she had faced throughout the process had been worth transforming discomfort into strength, redefining her legacy. In this moment, Clara Johnson, once tethered by doubt, had soared to unimaginable heights, paving a path for countless others to follow. She accomplished not only her personal objectives, but exemplified the essence of leadership through empathy and strength. This chapter closed beautifully, encapsulating her journey from battling self-doubt to embracing vulnerability and advocating for shared narratives. The evolution was profound. Clara's legacy had grown, taking root both in her success and the successes of those inspired by her story. The moment called for recognition. Her growth was a testament to the drive it takes to transform not just oneself but to uplift others in the process. And now this is your moment to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that could ignite change in your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support more journeys of overcoming. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Clara's journey, and most importantly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support and inspire others to embrace their stories too. Don't wait even one more second.